The smell of disinfectant clung to my uniform, no matter how many times I washed it. It was early, too early, but I had memorized the schedule of suite cleanings like it was gospel. Galen Prescott was set to arrive by noon. A keynote speaker, a visionary, the star of the summit. That's what the glossy brochure said. My name used to be next to his. I slid the keycard, stepped into the penthouse suite, and paused. Every detail was precision planned. Leather-bound portfolios, monogrammed towels, the chilled champagne already sweating in its ice bucket, and on the marble table near the window, his presentation materials. I told myself to keep moving, but then I saw it. The sketch. It wasn't the original, but I recognized the lines, my lines. The curvature of the filament, the unique signature of the cooling interface. Someone had re-rendered it in digital gloss, but I knew the soul of it. It was mine. I lifted the glossy model off the display base. My eyes caught the plaque, invented by Galen Prescott. No co-creator. No mention of me. That night flashed into my head. Me, 7 months pregnant, pencil in hand, sketching by the hospital window as monitors beeped around me. Galen had said I was obsessing, but I'd never felt more alive, or more alone. He didn't just steal the patent, he erased me from it. The welcome dinner was a blur of linen napkins and clinking silverware. I'd been reassigned server again. The summit's elite mingled under gold chandeliers, toasting progress and pretending the world hadn't burned these last 10 years. That's when I saw him. Micah, taller now, maybe 20? He wore a navy suit that fit too well, standing beside Galen like a shadow grown upright. He handed a drink to someone, wrist twisting just so, and I froze. The small mole beneath his wrist bone. The one my mother had, the one I kissed every night when he was still mine. He caught my stare. I turned before the collapse, reached my knees. Then Galen appeared. He glanced at me. His expression didn't shift. "Sorry," he said casually, as if I were someone with the wrong tray. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else." I don't know what hurt more, his voice or the sheer art of his lie. Micah looked between us, puzzled but said nothing. Later, an envelope appeared at the concierge desk. No name, just my suite number in block letters. Inside, my original sketch, complete with my signature. The tremble in my hands had nothing to do with age. Someone remembered, or someone wanted me to believe they did. She found me near the freight elevator. Romy Archer, the one who used to call me sister, back when we dreamed of simpler betrayals. "You need to go," she hissed, glancing over her shoulder. Her lipstick had faded, her voice had not. "He'll ruin you again." I stared at her. "You mean he hasn't finished?" She flinched, then left without waiting for an answer. Later, while refreshing glasses at the media panel, someone from my past, James from the old engineering team, locked eyes with me. His lips parted. "Iva." A tray clattered. I'd let it fall. Everyone turned, then quickly looked away again. I laughed. It sounded like a lie. I ducked into a maintenance room and shut the door. The light buzzed above me. How do you kill someone who's already buried you? I whispered to no one. My knees pressed against my chest. For the first time in years, I felt 24 again, back when hope was louder than fear. Backstage, Micah wandered near the tech display alone. I watched from behind curtain, invisible in black polyester and name tag anonymity. Something slipped from his jacket. It hit the floor with a soft clink. I stepped forward instinctively. A pendant, gold-edged, worn from time. The same one I had clasped around a newborn's neck 13 years ago in a hospital room where the lights never dimmed. I stood still, the breath gone from my lungs. Micah didn't see me. He picked it up, looked around, then tucked it away. From the main stage, Galen's voice cracked mid-sentence, an audio glitch. The room stilled. He turned, eyes scanning behind the glare of lights. He looked directly at me. His smile didn't falter, but I saw the flicker. He knew I was there. In the lobby, Avery Delgado stood near the fountain, watching me. Just watching. Then a nod. Barely there, but it rooted something in me. He didn't just steal my name. He stole my motherhood. And I let him. Ever had someone look you in the eye and act like they never loved you? What would you do if the man who destroyed your life smiled like nothing happened? He looked right at me as if I were invisible. But 3 days later, the illusion would crack. The hallway outside the press room smelled like old carpet and fresher lies. I waited until the night shift rotated out, timing the clicks of heels fading down the corridor. The badge I'd borrowed was warm in my palm. I swiped it through the panel, holding my breath as the door beeped green. Inside, the room buzzed with dormant tech, monitors sleeping in rows, the hum of buried information waiting to be exhumed. I sat down and typed what I remembered. Summit, pre-investor private event, 2013. Nothing came up at first. Then a folder labeled unauthorized, pending deletion. I opened it. There I was, younger, pregnant, hair pulled back, voice full of conviction, presenting what would become Galen's golden patent, my invention, explained in the same cadence I still hear in dreams. The timestamp confirmed it. My name, my voice, my fingerprints in motion. I watched it twice, then a third time. They didn't erase me, I whispered, copying the file to a secure drive. They buried me alive. Have you ever seen proof of your own truth and still felt like no one would believe you? Avery Delgado met me at sunrise in a side cafe where the lights were too dim and the coffee too sharp. She wore no makeup, just the air of someone who knew where too many bodies were buried. I pulled this through someone who still owes me, she said, handing me a sealed folder. But you didn't get it from me. I opened it slowly. Inside were records from St. Brielle Psychiatric, where I'd been admitted after my postpartum collapse. Pages of notes, medication logs, psychological evaluations. Then one sheet stopped me cold. A signature, mine, transferring full invention rights to Galen Prescott. But the line next to it read, signed under sedation, patient classified, unstable mental state. It was my handwriting, but the tremble in the curve of each letter was not my voice. It was my silence manipulated. This is what consent looks like when truth is drugged, I said softly. Avery leaned in. Legally, this is damning. But if we want to use it, we need a second witness who can confirm your state when that was signed. And if we don't, Galen's PR team will bury you with it again. That night, I encrypted an old line of contact and sent a message. Only one person had been in the lab that week. Ezekiel Zeke Harmon. Reclusive, genius, and, for a brief time, someone I'd trusted. His reply came hours later. No contact. Not safe. I won't meet. So I sent him something else. The schematic with my original signature. His next message was a single word. Call. His voice was scratchy through static, but familiar in all the worst ways. I took Galen's deal, Zeke admitted. Minor equity in exchange for silence. He told me you were unstable, said you'd never remember what you signed. Did you believe him? I believed I needed the money. A pause, long enough to feel like guilt. Then he added, he's got my son on his insurance plan. My kid's in a chair now. Cerebral palsy. I can't risk that coverage. I'm not asking you to. My throat was tight. I've already lost one child to that man. I won't let him own another. Zeke sighed. Then I'll testify, but only if you protect my son after this burns. I will. And I meant it. The lobby cafe was quieter than usual when Michael walked in. He scanned the space, spotted me, and approached. I tried to smile. He didn't. I see you everywhere, he said. Always in the corner. Always watching. I work here. You know what I mean. His voice was clipped, defensive. I'm not following you, I said. No? Then explain this. He dropped a printed photo onto the table. A blurry screenshot from the night before, me in the hallway outside the press room. You had someone follow me? I'm protecting my father, he said, jaw set, from whatever this obsession is. You don't know what he's done. I don't want to know, he snapped, because everything you're saying sounds insane. My hand twitched toward him. But he was already walking away. That afternoon, Galen released a statement to the media. After questions surfaced about Ms. Ivana Creed's past claims, a private DNA test was conducted. Results show no biological link between Ms. Creed and my son. It was too fast, too perfect. Within hours, hashtags exploded. Patent psycho, she stole the baby story, unfit and untrue. Even my old emails were turned into memes. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. If truth were water, I thought, mine is locked behind glass. I can see it, but I can't drink. If the law says you're mentally unfit, even when you're telling the truth, who really gets to define reality? The press called me a ghost from the past. But ghosts know how to haunt. By dawn, my name was everywhere for all the wrong reasons. Galen's press release read, like a script from a network drama, a mentally unstable former employee with a history of delusion and obsession. He called me a woman plagued by maternal fantasies, accused me of stalking and weaponized edited footage from 13 years ago. There I was on screen again, grainy and wide-eyed, being escorted out of the lab during my breakdown. They cropped the tremors in my hands, but not the panic in my face. Then came the gut punch. Galen claimed I'd lost custody due to neglect. Claimed the child had been placed in state care. It was more than a lie. It was theft dressed in credibility. Avery, jaw clenched, worked the legal angle. We have enough to file, she said, flipping through documents at the edge of my bed. But we don't have time. Once the summit ends, the story ends with him as the hero. A buzz from my phone. Romy. Just a single line. Check the red folder behind the vent. 13 years doesn't delete everything. I stared at the message, then at the air ducked above the closet. If someone controlled your story, I whispered, dragging a chair under it, how would you fight to reclaim the pen? At noon, the first forums lit up. The video was clear, professionally shot. Zeke's voice trembled as he looked straight into the lens. My name is Ezekiel Harmon, he began, and I need to confess. He detailed everything. How Galen had manipulated Ivana into signing away her rights while sedated. How he'd watched the truth get buried under paperwork and press releases. Then he held up the blueprints, the ones with Ivana's initials and the date. Months before Prescott Corp ever filed a patent. I watched a genius be erased by a man who couldn't build, only steal. The video spread faster than wildfire. Within hours, every major tech outlet had posted it. I didn't watch it again. I didn't need to. Micah did. He didn't say much. Just stood at the window of the suite, holding his phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Then he turned to Avery. I need the adoption records. All of them. Truth is not loud. It just doesn't flinch. The emergency board meeting felt less like a negotiation and more like a storm cell. Galen stood at the head of the room, all charisma and calm, trying to steady a sinking ship with his usual charm. But the tide had shifted. Micah rose first, confident, focused. His voice carried through the tension like a scalpel. My name is Micah Creed. I'm here as a shareholder, and as someone who's just discovered he's been living a lie. He played Zeke's video, laid out the signed psychiatric forms, presented birth records that matched mine. Murmurs turned to outrage. Board members shifted, some nodding, others shaking their heads. One man slammed his pen down. We were sold a myth, he muttered, built on stolen bones. When the vote came, it was unanimous. Galen shouted, red-faced and shaking, "This is a coup." Corporate security approached. He left the room yelling at ghosts. I waited until the door shut behind him before walking in. I said nothing at first, just placed a manila folder on the table. Inside was the original patent certificate, my name, my date, my design. You don't owe me an apology, I said. You owe the truth its name. The rooftop was quiet. Austin's skyline flickered like a constellation of small chances. Micah stood at the edge, back turned. When he heard my steps, he didn't flinch, just reached into his coat pocket and handed me a small object. A plastic piano key, yellowed with age. I've had this since I was a baby, he said. I always thought it was just from somewhere. I didn't speak. I think I was supposed to find you. The wind felt different then. Not softer, just less heavy. Avery joined us a few minutes later. Her tone was lighter than it had been in days. The board approved it. The Fund for Female Inventors. They're calling it the Creed Trust. I nodded slowly. Not to punish, not to profit, just to begin again. She smiled. You already did. Ever been broken in public, but healed in private? The world knew my name again. But this time, I chose how the story ended.